There are times in NSA when you get to work with folks who can change your perspective or at least cause you to think differently. My next guest isn't about perfection. That's something I don't think exists. And wow, I bet I've wobbled some of you. But Jess Pettitt talks about Good Enough Now, the title of her new book. It's my honor to welcome Jess to VOE. This is Chuck Gallagher with VOE. My guest is Jess Pettitt. Jess has been on the board with NSA.
Truth.
You have rolled off of that position, but you have clearly been an active voice that has caused a lot of us to raise the game in terms of how we think about how we interact with each other.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah. What is interesting is it's so dangerously close to words I use quite often with my clients, and that I don't think I'm a thought leader. I think I help leaders think.
Okay.
And so within the context of NSA, where speakers are not my typical audience, et cetera. I mean, I do speak to associations, but not typically this. This is a group of thought leaders. And so in my membership, and in my opinion, what I give into this community is how to help people think differently, or to even just think about things differently. And so in my 12 years, I think, of membership, that is what I've done.
What do speakers need to know to be effective in the marketplace today?
Well, thanks for the softball question to get us started with.
I never said that I was a fast pitch pitcher.
So, what's funny is that I thought of two things first. And I think oddly, in running my own business, I kind of always come up with two contradictory answers. So surprise, I did again.
Oh, well, can you imagine?
Yeah. So the first thing that I thought of was that not only are the audiences changing and the speakers changing, but the methodology in which we're delivering our content or our message is also changing. And I feel like as one individual's career or business grows and spurts and spots and gets to a place where it's comfortable, and the person's life also is catching up with that there are other businesses coming right behind it, and there are other businesses right ahead of it. All part of that same curve.
Sure.
So I think that leads to kind of this natural ebb and flow. So there was like a recent post I saw on Facebook that was like, everyone's raising their fees, and they don't understand, like, meeting planners all have the same budgets. Well, that's true, but when people are raising their fees, they're doing different kinds of work at that fee. And then there are other speakers who are coming up who now have the opportunity to do those kind of meetings at that particular fee. And I think that wheel kind of keeps spinning as we develop our own businesses, develop our content, develop our methodology. So that's the first thing that I would say, is just be mindful that there's someone in front of you and there's someone behind you always.
Okay, fair enough. Right.
Community, right?
Community.
We talk about pie, but we don't always really understand how there are speakers who are more expensive than me, and there are speakers who are less expensive than me. There are people who have more experience, less experience. And my job is to be conscious of the responsibility of being in the middle of that.
Right.
I believe.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Second thing I thought of was, and this is almost always my answer what should you tell speakers, is I wish someone had told me.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have listened.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it. Where's the camera? You're not going to listen to this.
Oh, no, wrong camera. Go
kidding.
to that one.
Oh, good. You're not going to listen to it either. Okay, so here it is you are in charge of your own sense of urgency. So by virtue of being solopreneured, I will continually have a list of top 10 urgent, on fire, number one priorities that must occur. I cannot get them all done in a day. So the old mindset when I had a job of prioritize, do what you need to do, and do the top 3 in a given day, or what are you going to do? What 5 things are you going to do today? Well, you can still do that, but you're not going to reduce the sense of urgency of the stuff you're not getting done, because everything is urgent. And so urgent can't dictate how you do your time anymore. It gets really expensive and it'll stress you out because it's never going anywhere. So you have to pick a new sense of how to dictate how to spend your time and how to spend your money.
When you market yourself, I'm making an assumption.
Great.
As a speaker, obviously someone is going to pay you for the service that you provide.
My dogs depend on that. Somebody's got to buy the dog food.
I hear you. So therefore, that means either you are so in demand because people can find you that the phone's ringing off the wall, or you're doing some outbound active marketing.
Yes.
If you're doing outbound active marketing, talk to us about what you do.
Well, first off, make assumptions all you want to, and then just ask questions. So great job. So I do some outbound stuff. I don't do near as much as I should because, like most of us, that's the part that's hard, right?
Okay.
And I can come up with a million excuses. It's really hard to do outbound marketing when you're like chasing airplanes, right?
Sure.
So again, you have to do both at the same time. So you have to, outbound marketing, what I decided is I'm not going to do Jane Atkinson's I picked a lane, but I picked an audience. What does that audience look like? What kind of building are they in? For me, it doesn't actually matter what the theme is as to why they all came together.
Right.
But like my preference is being a closing keynoter of a multi-day, mid-size association where they're supposed to be learning some stuff, but they're also supposed to be like building community and remembering why they like their jobs. Okay, so if I've decided this year, who needs to be reminded that they like their jobs? Some people would say living humans. So yeah. I needed to narrow that down a bit. Right. So I narrowed it down to living humans with checkbooks. And then I decided, when I kind of looked at this other side, it really seems to be like first responders, social workers, counselors, medical providers. I have no idea why, but that's who is making my phone ring. So can I match my outbound marketing plan with this that's magically occurring? And then weird is it feels like it's working. It's because the work I'm doing seems to be making the phone ring. In reality, the phone may have just rung all by itself, but at least I'm congruent with who's kind of magically parachuting into my life, and pay attention to that. If all these, this particular quarter, I have a bunch of hospitals. What? I don't even like going to the hospital myself. What is going on? However, talking to people about death and dying and illness is a really difficult topic. And when we look at issues of diversity and inclusion, people in hospitals don't have time to have the education around that often because they're being educated around other stuff around death and dying. And all of this are really important conversations that matter. What's my keynote called? Conversations that matter. They're the ones who are ringing my doorbell, right?
Right.
So, okay, now I need to get to know them better. So then I also find kind of this cycle is that my outbound marketing that's focusing on kind of these mid-size conferences where these folks show up, the more I can tap into them, my outbound marketing makes more sense.
Right.
Because I'm actually talking about last week I was here. Here's an unanswerable question that we were able to come up with an answer. Do you have this problem too? Can I solve this problem for you too? So the left and the right are kind of feeding each other. But that's mostly my outbound marketing plan right now. And it's probably not awesome. And it's probably not what all the whiz-bang books say that I'm supposed to be doing right now. But as I like to say, it is good enough. And it is making my phone ring. And my dogs have dog food. So
we would not want the dogs to starve.
I know. Well, they both weigh 80 pounds. So, I mean, this is a serious consideration.
As we wrap up this VOE segment, what are the conversations that as speakers we should be having that matter?
There's way more than two things that come up for that.
Well, give me three. Isn't it rough to feel limited?
I know. What?
Oh.
I'm limited by time, not by content. I would challenge speakers to have a conversation of with themselves, maybe with a friend, but ideally with themselves, including me. What do we feel entitled to? And then get over it. And then repeat. So washing your hair, right? So the lathering piece is, why do you feel entitled to that? When people think well, I didn't get that gig because somebody got it because there's some diversity box. You feel entitled to that space. Why? what if somebody got it because they're actually really good and competent, and you're not treating them like a colleague, you're treating them like somebody who stole something from you? That's a responsibility piece that I think is a conversation as a profession that not only matters, but will heal some pain that exists in our profession and hopefully move us forward together.
Okay.
That's the first one off the bat.
Okay.
Second one, I think, is there is a very important balance that we must showcase and role model for other people. And oddly, it's two horses, is what I always say. And we are riding two horses at the same time. One of them is ego-filled, that I have to be competent and confident in my message and what I have to say, to the point that I have to convince somebody else they got to spend a lot of money on me and not someone else. And that someone else may be someone I look up to and I read their books. Why me over them? That is how your marketing is written. That is how your website is written. That's what your mastermind should be checking, right? Is this ego piece. And the other piece, and this actually comes up quite often in the medical profession as well, is a sense of humility. That what I mean by humility in this context is that I can bring my expertise into a conversation, recognize that I have it, set it off to the side, and then have a one-on-one in the moment conversation. To maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm about to learn something. And by balancing that humility with your ego, that's the ride, right? That's what we have to do. And I think that those are conversations that we need to be having with ourselves and with our colleagues.
Jess, again, had a number of years to work with you.
I know.
It's
We've collaborated on so many things.
It's always fun. There's always a new and fresh perspective. I really appreciate the fact that you jumped in and got involved. And I want to thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do, and much success to you, because this was good enough right now.
Oh, thanks so much. You're doing great.